Good afternoon, everyone. That barbaric relic called gold. Oh, central banks are accruing at record levels. Silver versus gold percentages, COMEX, it's about a 10-to-1. Prices rising so rapidly, unable to change the prices on the shelf, bill you at the register. Food prices skyrocketing, yet Northern Ireland removing cow and sheep. Wholesale gas prices highest ever. Will you receive food as a guest at somebody's house? EU going to ban most Russian oil. Natural gas too. Compression stations turning off. Right here on the map, top right, blue. Does this feel like it's an artificial dust storm across the planet, or is it just me? Check this out. Many people today struggle to manage their weight, but this is more true than ever after the age of 20, because after the age of 20, our body's metabolism slows down by as much as 4% every decade. By the time we're 50, we've experienced a 10% drop or more in our metabolism. That's a risk to health. That's why I highly recommend adaptwithketo.com. This product works by increasing the ketone levels inside your body, which in turn support boosted metabolism. A scoop a day, I saw improvements for my energy levels while working on the farm. And the best part is I never had to cut out carbs or make other changes to my diet. And if you want to try some of this amazing keto powder, luckily I've secured a deal for the Adapt 2030 audience. Take 51% off your next order by going to adaptwithketo.com or click on the link in the description box below. And now on with the video. And we've heard again and again how barbaric and how ancient and how unuseful gold is. Don't buy gold, don't buy silver. Put your money into widgets and thingamajiggies. This is too heavy to transport. Yet when we look at central bank gold reserves in tons, how's that red line going there? Messaging is one way, yet central banks behaving another. Who's getting played? Looking at COMEX, gold and silver, how much is in the vault inventory? Well, 336 million ounces of silver, 36 million ounces of gold. It's about a 10-to-1. Because it truly is about the debasement of the currency and how to protect yourself during hyperinflationary times. We're heading into a blast into the past. $1 silver dollar, a silver certificate. Receipt for a barbaric relic of heavy metal, otherwise known as silver. Below, the Federal Reserve note backed by air. So remember, marching forward, the narratives are going to be telling you to go one direction. Looks like we're going to need to go 180 degrees on what you're seeing across the wide scope of talking heads across the news. It really does look that way. Whatever it says, do this, you're going to want to do the opposite, because it seems that the money is doing the opposite, but messaging for you to follow the breadcrumbs in a different direction. And that's all you're going to get when you're starving is breadcrumbs, while the 16-course turkey meal is had by those who distract you. Now check out this sign here. Due to rapidly rising costs, we are unable to keep up with price changes on the shelf. Current prices will be changed at the register. If you have a question about the price, contact our staff and we'll be happy to help if we can find a staff, because we're short-staffed. And this gives credence to some stories I'd done talking about Home Depot going to digital labels on the shelf. Then they can change in real time, and this won't be a question. Can you imagine the confusion going up to pay for your goods? And what you think might be $100 turns out to be $300. So we are going to be needing food, and a lot of it, to get humanity through these changes. Now, Northern Ireland faces a loss of 1 million sheep and cattle. Also 5 million chickens. I see we're on this balancing act here of bonkers world versus reality and people's stomachs. Now, an interesting factoid here too is these animals graze on grasslands where farm crops cannot be grown. And if you've seen any of the maps where human habitation will be allowed, it looks like they'll have to remove people too. And if you've ever flown on an airplane and actually looked out the window instead of your video screen in front of you, you'll see how much vast lands are out there that are non-populated. So when we get to points like this, I say, really? You got hundreds of millions of acres that there's nothing on it. It is wild. Is it not possible to use that, cultivate that, and start thinking about exactly this, where something cannot be grown, switch crop or switch to animal husbandry to utilize that space in a sustainable fashion and still produce the food we need? There is probably 80% of the planet's surface that is unallocated and not used for proper agriculture that could be. It seems like it's being set aside, and I've seen some of these red and yellow maps through the years that show human habitation zones, no human habitation allowed, no human usage, period. Seems like it's starting to match up. Before I thought those maps were kind of hocus pocus, but it does seem now there's some validity to it. And removing farm animals and your food source, you're going to get corralled into the city. Oh, I just ducked away from the lasso right there. You're going to have to do the same. And in the best of circumstances, where there's bounty and plenty on the planet, will you receive food as a guest at somebody's home? Now, this is a more cultural-based map here. Almost always, food is part of the culture. Have you eaten yet? Sit down. Here's some olives. Here's some wine. Here's some bread. Here's some whatever, ham. But it's interesting, in the Scandinavian countries, it's almost never a thing. You're not really offered food, maybe drink. But see how it is very different in the Mediterranean. Slower culture, chilled out, let's share some bread together. But what do you think is going to happen when it gets to really difficult and very tumultuous starvation times? The red will be redder if that's a possibility. And the usually yes might swing into completely red. I don't know, there's going to be a lot of changes during these times that we haven't forecast. So how about onto the desert theme here? Did you know that many cacti, parts of cacti, are edible? This is an amazing photo. I've never seen a saguaro this big. Got to be a world record here. But with the changing atmosphere that we're seeing across the way, check out this dust devil. That is nothing small, and I would be driving my car away from that, except we've seen that nutter in Australia who ran into the middle of it. That was interesting. People behave differently to extreme weather. And also this one here, to create an artificial dust storm. I don't know if they're trying to fertilize by kicking up the dust here. But it does seem to reflect our world where it's artificial, where we're on the downside of all the dust, but centralized planners are over here in the clean air throwing the dust toward us. Totally artificial. Now how do we get out of this? Well, we should walk toward the dust. Clear out the dust. Stop the machines. Wholesale gas prices, highest they've ever been. And that looks to continue as oil and gas are cut off from different regions across the planet. I mean, have you prepared for $10 gasoline here in the U.S.? I know in other places in the world, it's already $12, $13 a gallon. But here at home, you know, we haven't really experienced $10 gas ever. Never. And just even 2 weeks ago, there were some stories floating around that they were reprogramming gasoline pumps to include 4 digits, which would bring you into the $10, $11, $12, $20 range, up to $99. And I'm really curious how high the prices will go, because we know food is going to lockstep with that. Food and energy are intertwined. You can't decouple them. You need both. And diesel prices at all-time highs as well. You might want to save a little bit of extra for this harvest season. Prices should really be spiking through July and August, and the first delivery contracts in September will see record pricing at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange or the CBOE over there. where people are taking physical delivery of crops. And remember, they're going to pay anything to get it. If they're stuck out short or they have to make a delivery and they don't actually have the product that was grown in the field because of low fertilizer, low herbicide, drought, or inclement conditions, they're going to pay anything to get it, driving the prices further. So you're going to see a bidding war on crops at the end so they can deliver physically without being fined. Now the banks have worked through this profit loss thing on how much they need to pay for 500,000 tons of corn, for example, versus the fines they'll receive for every day of non-delivery. There's a ratio in there somewhere that they're willing to go up to. You're going to see the highest prices ever for crops across this planet, and it'll be higher even next year. So you're going to get a good glimpse of where we're going with these food shortages and hyperinflationary prices no later than August, because the first delivery will come in September when we get into lean crop yields and crop tours really giving us some fact on the ground of what's not in the field versus usually what's being grown. It's going to swing the pendulum to what's not being grown. So you'll see a switch in the narrative there too. So time to get a little prepared for the end of this year. Oh, that's just a few months from now. We're already in June. What I'm saying is coming July, August, September is less than 3 months. Tick-tock. And why would I talk about diesel and gasoline prices? Natural gas also. So it begins. Europe, tick-tock as well, on the clock. Shell subsidiaries under the German deal, and also to Denmark. This is Gazprom going to say bye-bye on the deliveries. But then on top of that, the EU leaders have banned up to 90% of Russian oil, and natural gas fits in there as well. And off of Bloomberg here, we'll talk about natural gas. They've already given the locations of the gas transmissions that are going to stop first. So we're looking at 2 different transit points. Sokran Ivka and Sudza. I was like, well, where are those located exactly? Here they are on the map for you, in blue with the stars, top right. Smack dab in the middle of the main Ukrainian transit areas. And looking for geographical references, you're looking for that body of water and you're going to head to the northwest. And what do we find from that body of water to the northwest? One of the main pipelines coming out of the Ukraine heading south, follow it down through Romania, providing gas to Eastern Europe. And if we widen that out, you can follow the same pipeline, Russian gas west. So you can already see which nations will be affected. And then a wild card here. If you look really far south off of Turkey, there's the port Ceyhan for LNG. So if Russia's not able to export to Europe, they'll be like, okay, that's 1 pipeline out of 3 gone. And what they'll have to do is reroute through Baku and then take the Baku route down and load at Ceyhan, put it on the tankers, and then take it through the Suez Canal. Everything's starting to happen at lightning speed. So this is one of the 3 pipeline main trunk lines coming out of Ukraine. Okay, that's the first one cut off. So when it goes to second and third, what's going to happen to European energy? Well, I was watching this most amazing video, Peter Zehan, who says and shows through research that all the West African production will be routed up to Europe, and that normal West African production heads to Asia, Northeast Asia. That's going to cut off immediately 1.5 million barrels of oil from China. Korea is going to be greatly affected, Japan and Taiwan. They're going to lose their energy imports in terms of liquid crude. Refined product. It's going to be, well, something that is going to cascade across our planet. So if you think the energy prices are high now, you really haven't seen anywhere remotely close to how high they can get, especially with this rerouting. And again, one of the major flashpoints to look for is going to be the Baku oil fields. Not so much the fields themselves in the Caspian Sea. It's going to be the transmission. It's going to be the pipe, the sets of pipe running oil or natural gas coming out of Baku that, again, terminated Ceyhan port in Turkey. That's the way that Russia would come around the sanctions and send that oil that they could not upload in the Black Sea. And maybe that's one of the reasons that China had cut their wheat crop 6 to 8 weeks early this year, knowing that within that 1.5 month time span that all exports out of West Africa would be cut off. They already saw this in advance. So what we're seeing now in terms of public information available, planners and War College scenarios have gone out months ahead of us and already saw this. So the Chinese are just adjusting to what was known months, plural, ago that we're just getting now in the public arena. And this is all going to be reflected in the food delivery and the food prices, movement of foods from a factory into a supermarket. So when I say you need to get ready, that's no BS assessment. You're going to need to get your foods up. There's food storage, get some extra fuels if you can, get a generator if you can. Make sure your car is topped up at all times. I mean, that's a storage unit in itself. How many gallons in your car? If you keep it 100% full all the time, you have your own storage unit for petrol right there. And speaking of foods, uncertain times, My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030. 3-month emergency food supply, 25 years shelf life. Today is going to be cheaper than tomorrow. That's all I will say again and again. We are going into hyperinflationary prices at the end of the year here, so whatever you get now, you're going to absolutely be saving money. And also this allows you to stay out of the chaos in case something erupts in stores or a city. You can ride out the chaos for several weeks, a month, before things calm back down, and then it's safer to go in back to your purchase point and get more food. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I will see you next time.